I had a track coach in high school, and his motto was, if you don't throw up at the end of your race, you haven't tried hard enough.
Oh boy.
And our family motto is, if you haven't made them wet their pants, you haven't been funny enough. So, one of the reasons I like doing comedy for middle aged women is that our bladders have all been weakened by pregnancy. So, it's like taking candy from a baby.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Silberstein, one of the co-hosts of the podcast, The Mom Coms, Stand-Up and Stories. I recently surprised myself by getting into stand-up comedy. Though classically trained, my biggest claim to fame was the role of Carrie Bradshaw's answering machine. So I guess stand-up wasn't too far off the mark.
Hi, I'm Holly Rizzuto Polker. I'm an Italian Catholic, married to a Jewish guy. So move over, Sebastian Maniscalco. I'm raising 3 pizza bagels of my own. I used to wear a t-shirt over my bathing suit.
Yeah, okay.
Did you do that?
I just remember I was told that I had fat knees in like 4th grade, and that still traumatized me. You won't see me in shorts, and it's for this one.
You do not have fat knees. I would take your knees. I would
raise you one pair of knees.
That age just sucks. But I do think nowadays they make those period bathing suits, and
there are more options.
And because our daughters, for better or worse, are like out there on TikTok and Instagram, and there's a body positivity that.
I mean, yes, there definitely are more empowering statements that, can feed their subconscious and get them out onto the pool patio or beach. But I will say what still baffles me is when I turn around, I say, does my butt look big? And my teenage daughter will be like, yeah. And
good. That's a good thing.
And I'm just like, yeah, no, can't do it. He's like, no, that's what you want. I don't know how much we owe Kim Kardashian for this.
I had J-Lo butt when it wasn't cool, and I did everything to like play it down. Maybe we can do like a butt themed mom-com show. That could be fun. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Mom Coms Stand Up and Stories. Today we have Karen Reiner with us. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you, Holly.
A little bit about Karen. She is a comedic storyteller and a stand-up comic whose ability to find humor in everyday life started with a childhood in which she was ensconced in polyester, fabric woven in the devil's workshop. A lifelong goody two-shoes, Karen's goal is to make you laugh but not blush. Karen has performed at the Bell House in Brooklyn, the Irma Bomback's Writers Conference in Dayton, Ohio, World Cafe Live in Philly, and you can follow her on Facebook and Instagram at Karen Reiner Comes Clean.
Bonnie Dalzell, Karen's mom, was a freelance writer back in the 70s. Her best friend was a photographer. They called themselves Scoop and Flash, but because they were stay-at-home moms, they came to be lovingly nicknamed Poop and Flush.
I love that.
Bonnie and her friend created unique, humorous slideshows about aspects of Philadelphia history and built a cult following among women's clubs and church groups. It's Bonnie's claim to fame. Clearly, apples don't fall far from the tree.
Welcome, Karen and Bonnie. I'm so excited about this. So, Karen, this essay I have seen you do at least a portion of, and it is hysterical.
I didn't want to read the entire essay, but I ended up reading the entire essay.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Steph.
So why don't you go ahead, and then we will ask you questions when it's done.
Okay, sounds good.
And it's called The Naked Truth.
Hey, everybody. I come from a family of lovable tightwads. They can stretch a dollar so far it looks like George Washington's had a facelift. And the biggest penny pincher of all is my mom. We call her the cheapskate Charlie of the family. Now, in her defense, she can't help being thrifty. She was born during the Depression and lived through periods of great scarcity, like rationing during World War II, the energy crisis in the 70s, and most recently, the great toilet paper famine of 2020. My mom used to save money by making most of the clothes that my sister and I wore. And my mom was so thrifty and so handy, she could make just about anything you could imagine. Until one day, thrifty and handy crossed paths, and she made the unimaginable: homemade underpants. And it gets worse than that, because instead of slipping these into our drawers with our clean laundry and our socks, she put them in our Easter baskets. Yeah, this was in lieu of the chocolate bunnies we were expecting. You know, though, I have to give her credit. She got good use of the legs pantyhose eggs that she'd been saving because they were too good to throw out. So here we were expecting chocolate and jelly beans, and instead we got Victoria's Secret's worst nightmare. Now, my mom was thrifty, but she was also thoughtful. So she sat down with my sister and me, and she explained that she had done us a favor with those homemade underpants. You see, she said, we'd be teenagers soon, and the chocolate would give us pimples. She was going for the long game. That's what thrifty people do. And in retrospect, pimples only last a few days, but an embarrassing underpants story lasts a lifetime and helps a budding comedian get her start. Now, with the money my mom saved on underpants, chocolate, and Clearasil, she had enough left over to make me another memorable article of clothing a few years later. Now, this was the summer I hit adolescence. She made me a homemade bathing suit, because nothing screams teen confidence like homemade swimwear. Now, let's just take a moment to remember that puberty is so horrific that our parents have to use euphemisms to tell us what's going to happen. They use terms like blossoming and budding and sprouting, as if it's a peaceful walk through a garden, when really it's as if your body got taken over by a drunken landscaping crew. You know, suddenly there's pimples popping up on your forehead, weird hairs growing like weeds on an abandoned lot. And if you're a girl, there's the inevitable development overnight of breasts that are either way too big or way too small. There's no such thing as Goldilocks boobs. Now, me, I'm a lifelong card-carrying member of the Itty Bitty Titty Committee. We've been meeting right after the podcast, so you can join us. Our meetings are quick. Like my boobs, they end in no time flat. Now, the summer my mom made this bathing suit, I was feeling especially self-conscious about my changing body. So I embarked on an exercise regime that was sweeping the nation. Some of you may be familiar with it too. If you do, if you are, you can chant along. It went like this: we must increase our bust. They were combining bodybuilding and poetry. It was genius. I did that exercise every single day, but the only thing that grew was my resentment. So this is the phase of life I'm in when my mom makes me a tank suit out of polyester double knit, a fabric from the 70s that I believe has since been outlawed. She embroiders 3 daisies down the front of it and declares that it's bespoke. Custom made, she says, one of a kind. No one will ever forget it. Well, my friends, that's what we in the business call foreshadowing. First hot day of summer, I hop on my bike and I ride to the pool, and I'm waving to the neighbors along the way. Look at me, I'm wearing my new suit. It's bespoke. I jumped in the pool and disaster struck. When that polyester double knit came in contact with the chlorinated water, a whole chemistry experience kicked in, and that suit started to stretch and stretch and stretch. Pretty soon, the crotch of that bathing suit was down to my knees, and the neckline was almost down to my crotch, and the whole thing turned completely transparent, like a mood ring, but the mood is humiliation. And I'm here to tell you that those 3 daisies were not strategically stitched to cover up any of the blossoms or the buds or the sprouts. This garden was now open to the public. So I had no choice but to dash from the pool to my bike and do the ride of shame home, like a teenage Lady Godiva on a Schwinn. And all the neighbors who waved to me on the way to the pool were now just staring, horrified, like Munch's The Scream painting. I got home and dropped that suit right in the trash. My mother and I never talked about it again, until today, of course. The word on the street is the neighbors bespoke of it frequently. I'm Karen Reiner, and that's the naked truth.
I love it. The visual of Lady Godiva on the Schwinn is like my favorite. You're very good with visuals, Karen. I will give you that. Really great visuals.
Thank you.
And Karen, being the, I guess, agent that she is for her mother, asked if she could bring her on the show. And I couldn't resist because all she did was tell me how funny her mom is and how her mom was going to like steal her spotlight. My question is for Bonnie. Did you know that that material maybe wasn't the best material, but you were so cheap that you couldn't bring yourself to buy something better? Or how did that work?
I had yellow in mind, and there wasn't a great selection. And I loved the idea of it being stretchy because I was a master sewer in something in the 70s called stretch and sew. So I thought it would work beautifully, but the problem was that I was trying to be economical.
I knew it.
on-
I knew it.
and I never gave any thought to the fact that the stretch was supposed to go this way.
Well, it sounds like you've taken accountability and you've, hopefully been forgiven in the form of giving your daughter endless material.
Yeah, it was a teachable moment, building resilience. I think it might have been intentional, but
By the time I got home from the pool, the bathing suit started to dry and return to its original shape. So when I walked into the house and I said to my mom, I am never wearing this bathing suit again. It becomes transparent when wet. She didn't believe me. She made me get in the shower wearing the bathing suit.
No.
And then I stepped out of the shower. She took one look at me and she said, you are never wearing that bathing suit again.
That's so funny. Well, how do you feel, Bonnie, about being the subject of Karen's art?
I love it. I consider it a great compliment. She always tests things out for me, and I like to be the first one to hear the latest story.
I have brought my mother along on numerous occasions to public events, and she always winds up stealing the show. So I'll walk around town. I did a comedy show in my town about a year ago for a local arts council's fundraiser, and I gave my mother a sign. It was a big white sign taped to a yardstick, the very same yardstick, I might add, that she owned back when she made that bathing suit. So the yardstick is the handle of this sign, and the back of the sign said, I'm her mom, and the front of her sign says, that's the truth. And as I was telling these different comedic stories, I told everyone at the beginning, I said, you're going to think I'm dragging my mother through the mud. You're going to think I'm the worst person in the world. But at the risk of sounding like a politician, this is my mother, and she approves this message. And she held up the sign that said, I'm her mom, and then she flipped it to, that's the truth. The audience fell over laughing. And then with each anecdote I shared, the more outrageous it got, the more she'd hold up the it's the truth sign. So I'll walk around town and people I don't even know will say, oh, you're that comedian whose mom is so funny. How's she doing?
Karen, I think you're funny without your mom, but I think your mom really rounds it out for you.
working for Nate Bargatze also. His dad opens for him all the time. Bonnie, you might actually have to perform next. You could be the opener.
So the mom comes. Do you think our moms would get jealous?
I don't know. I'm very curious to hear. I'm glad that Bonnie has such a great sense of humor and can listen to these stories and find a way of reminiscing that really means a lot. Because I know for me, I get very nervous about talking about anybody. I don't know how they're going to receive it. It's inspiring to hear how well you've handled that aspect of your career.
Well, you have to think about my background through the Depression and why being frugal is important to me.
Yeah.
I just think I still do things that they kid me about for being frugal. And you may do this to your moms as well. Do you ever look in the refrigerator and then inspect the expiration dates?
With my father-in-law. He's frugal. And he claims that medicine doesn't expire.
No, it doesn't. What a waste. I've had the same bottle of aspirin for
Get him on the phone.
25 years. I don't get many headaches. So when
We-
I need one, I can take it, and I'm telling you, it works just fine.
See, he had like Motrin from 1995. We're like, we are not taking that. And then my husband's brother is a doctor, and he's like, it's not that it's going to be.
It's not dangerous.
It's not dangerous. It's just not going to be as effective.
We have a game with my in-laws where I'm like, oh, let's guess the date. And, this one's from the 70s. And yeah, it's fascinating.
Karen had a Thanksgiving family gathering one year where on her buffet was a display of non-perishable things in cans and boxes, and they were all expired. And she had a silent auction, and there were lots of us around the table, and we did a silent auction, and I went home with the best bunch of groceries I've had for ages.
Well, I'm interested to hear, Karen, how did you get into comedy?
About 3 years ago, my daughter bought me tickets to see a Moth Story Slam. If you're not familiar with the Moth, it's 5-minute true stories from personal experience. And it's usually on a theme. And so she bought me tickets, and I went as a spectator. And then the next month I went and put my name in the hat. And I got chosen, and I got on stage. And as soon as people started to laugh, I felt like I found my calling. I can do this. And, as a lifelong goody two-shoes, I'd never been drunk. I'd never smoked pot. And I said to my friend on the way home, now I know why people get high. This feeling is unbelievable.
Comedy's your drug.
It's my drug.
What inspired you to write this particular piece?
Oh, gosh. I think this particular piece was inspired by a theme that the Moth threw out as the subject for one of their storytelling competitions. I think the theme was humiliation or embarrassment. The more uncomfortable the situation is, the more people get that nervous laughter relating to what it can be like if it was them.
And you know what happens when you have nervous laughter, Karen.
Okay. We're going to go there, are we, Mom?
I sense an inside joke.
I had a track coach in high school, and his motto was, if you don't throw up at the end of your race, you haven't tried hard enough.
Oh, boy.
And our family motto is, if you haven't made them wet their pants, you haven't been funny enough. So one of the reasons I like doing comedy for middle-aged women is that our bladders have all been weakened by pregnancy. So it's like taking candy from a baby.
Yesterday I was playing pickleball, and I was so thankful that I had a skirt with pants under it. It's like a connected thing because I had a moment where I jumped and I couldn't. I had to run to the bathroom. I don't know why I just shared that. Maybe we'll edit that out. I don't know.
Great person to have in the audience.
Karen, I peed my pants before I even heard it.
I was thinking about what are some of the weird, quirky things that I do that are super frugal. And one of them, honestly, I'm embarrassed to admit this to you because it's probably not even really saving money. But you get at holidays, you get these beautiful gift bags with tissue paper in them, and you pull the tissue out and you find the gift. Now, this part I don't think is bad. I recycle those bags.
We all do.
Beautiful, right?
Yeah.
But I also recycle the tissue paper. But I don't want it to look recycled, so I get my ironing board out and I iron it. For Mother's Day, I've invited my mom and my mother-in-law to come over for dinner, but I thought as an activity, I would set up the ironing board and let them iron some tissue paper for me so that I'll have something to wrap their homemade granny panties in that I'm going to give them for their birthdays.
They're going to do that because they understand the frugality of things. Like my mom would laugh at me. She'll be like, I never ironed anything in my life. Like, what?
No, I'm curious. It's not flammable.
Don't you iron?
Stop it. Do you iron the ribbon too?
Sure.
I was hoping that the end of the story would be that you were this, fashion designer. Did anybody else get to enjoy these clothes? I mean, it's real talent.
Oh, my mother made the dresses that my bridesmaid wore in my wedding. And much like the scene from The Sound of Music where the dresses are made out of the curtains, remember Laura Ashley? We bought Laura Ashley sheets and we made the bridesmaid dresses out of this pink and white striped Laura Ashley sheets.
We're going to need to see the footage. They sound beautiful.
I feel like we might need a photo to like intersperse.
I'll find it and send it to you.
Well, speaking of weddings, Karen's older sister, Susan, has one daughter and she just got engaged. And I said to Susan, are you going to do what your dad and I did for both girls? We set a budget for them for the wedding, and it was a generous budget. And we said you can spend as much as you want within this budget, or you can have a modest wedding and have enough left over for a down payment on a house. And so Susan was with Kristen the other day and they were trying on wedding gowns. Susan pulled out her folder of all the expenses from her wedding, which I don't really remember what the total was, but she laughed because there was even a spool of thread for 79 cents. We were trying to teach them not to just splurge to the nth degree and not have anything at the end of the day for their futures. And I think both of them were very glad we did it. Were you, Karen, afterwards?
I am, because actually I credit all that frugality with the fact that I saved enough money that I was able to retire from my corporate job when I was only 48 or 49 years old.
That's right. That's right.
I'm curious, you really wanted to bring your mom on the show today. What were you hoping to achieve by doing that?
You know what? Everything in my life is shaped by my mom. She is now I'm going to start crying. I mean, she's the greatest influence in my life. And I just grew up listening to her and her business partners, Scoop and Flash, AKA Poop and Flush, laughing their heads off as they would work together in her office in our house. We didn't always have, the biggest house, the fanciest car. I didn't have the Calvin Klein jeans and the Victoria Vanderbilt jeans and all the cool stuff that the rich kids in town had. But I was always wrapped in love and laughter. And my mom is a huge part of that. And my dad, who's not with us anymore, he was your, epitome dad joke kind of guy. Lots of bad jokes, lots of bad puns. But my mother was always the one that could find humor in any situation. And even when we went to the funeral home the day my dad died, I almost think we were going to get put in the corner by the funeral director because my mom and my sister and we couldn't stop giggling. It was such a tense situation and we were being so inappropriate. And I remember Kathy Severin from the funeral home. She was so kind to us. She said, people deal with grief in all different kinds of ways. Whatever works for you, just let it happen. Remember, Mom?
Yeah, I sure do.
I think personally, funerals are supposed to be sad, and they are in that moment, but they're actually funny. I have a book I'm writing, and the funeral scene it's funny because it's a coming together of people, and it's different emotions, and there's just so much. And I don't know, I feel that. I feel laughing at your dad's funeral, and I feel also like that's what someone who's lived a good life would want to hear. So, all right, guys, fabulous interview.
I'm so grateful to listen to your stories and get to know you.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, thanks so much for inviting us.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Mom Comes Stand Up and Stories. We hope that you were able to laugh free of interruptions from your kids. This episode has been edited by the amazing Brianna Avenia Tapper. Check out our website, themomcoms.com, where we list information about our shows. See if we're performing in your area. Don't forget to subscribe to the Mom Comes Stand Up and Stories wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Bye.